Hi guys, Stuart from the Film Reelcast. Normally I do the YouTube videos, but this is the audio podcast that we do. For a change, I thought I'd upload it onto YouTube so you can listen to it as well. So there's no videos, it's just an audio podcast so you can sit back, relax and enjoy it. It's also available on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music and all good podcasting platforms. But you're here now, so you may as well just listen to our review of 1987 Shane Black's classic, Lethal Weapon. I hope you enjoy. And welcome back to the Film Reelcast. It is Stuart back here again. Yet again, we are sadly missing the company of wonderful James and Paul this week. But luckily, I've got Neil with us. Neil, how are you doing, buddy?
Hey, Stu, I'm all good. Very good. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad you are here. It nearly didn't happen. It nearly all collapsed around our ears. But thankfully, we're winging it this week. We're doing 1987. Action, buddy cop, action thriller, comedy, whatever you want to call it. Directed by Richard Donner, written by Shane Black, starring Mel Gibson and of course Danny Glover, and obviously Gary Busey. We were going to do something. We were going to do Caliber, weren't we?
We were.
But
we decided to go for a Christmas film instead in February.
Exactly. Would you class this as a Christmas film first?
I think so, considering the opening music to the film.
Do you think any film that has a Christmas tree in it or Christmas music you can class as a Christmas film?
Most certainly. Like I say, the best Christmas film ever is Die Hard.
Oh, some will say Home Alone. You just never know, do you?
Yeah, potato.
So, Lethal Weapon. I mean, I've been wanting to do this on the YouTube channel for ages, and Cobra Kai has come up, The Mandalorian came up, and then season 3 of Cobra Kai came up. Now One Division's here, so it's a really good excuse to be able to talk about this film, and it's a classic buddy cop film. It really, really is. And as we said before, you've got Mel Gibson who plays Martin Riggs, Danny Glover who plays Roger Murtaugh, Gary Busey who plays the psychopathic Joshua, Mitchell Ryan, who plays the General, Tom Atkins, who plays Michael Hansacker, and you've got the rest of the Murtaugh family as well. So I also think that worth saying is Amanda Hunsaker as well, played by Jackie Swanson, and I'll say later on why I think she deserves a special shout out. But I mean, this film is 1987. How old were you in 1987, if you don't mind me asking?
I was 6.
You were 6. I was 13 years old in 87. I remember when this came out, and I was very, very excited.
I bet.
Because it was obviously still on video, and it wasn't obviously the internet then, didn't have mobile phones then, so which is weird to believe that we had an era when we didn't have mobile phones, which is frightening in itself.
Well, that's what my son always looks at me in shock horror, because he's 9, and every time I say, "Oh yeah, when I was a kid, we didn't have such things," and he doesn't believe me.
It's mental, isn't it? I remember the first mobile phone I had that it didn't have a memory capable on it that you could save numbers. So with it, you've got like a credit card sized piece of paper to keep in your wallet where you wrote mobile numbers down on. You couldn't like quick dial any number. It's mental now that I can recall podcasts.
Do you know what? The first mobile phone I had, I bought in when I was in secondary school, and because I had this sort of job I did at the weekend, so I had a fair bit of money for a young boy, and I decided to go out and get a mobile phone. Problem is, I had no one I needed to phone, and no one ever phoned me on it. So I paid like 80 quid for this phone, which was a lot of money back then, for no fucking reason whatsoever.
Class.
Just used to get out of my pocket in class. I've got a mobile, a pointless mobile, but I had one.
Okay. Well, I lost train of thought now. Okay. Mel Gibson. Let's talk about him just for a second. I mean, back in the day, that I only knew him from I never saw it when I was younger, but from the front cover of Mad Max. Lots of people spoke about Mad Max, and it's obviously a cult film, but I just knew him from that. So I felt, and I never obviously wanted to see Gallipoli. Just at that age, it just wasn't my film. I've seen it since. It's a very good film. So to be able to see Mel Gibson because I was too young. I wasn't allowed to watch the Mad Max film, so I never saw the original. I never saw the Road Warrior in '81. So to see him in '87 in Lethal Weapon for me felt like a real bonus. I felt like a real grown up, even though I shouldn't have been watching it because I'm sure it must have been a rated 18 then.
Oh, back then, definitely. Yeah.
Was a real bonus. So, and since then, I mean, when you look at 1987, and I always go on about it, it's because of my age, and I'm sure that people like millennials and stuff like that will say, I don't know, the 2000s or the 90s was much better for films and things like that. But when you look in 1987, these films, and I said in previous podcasts that if I could was stuck on a desert island and I could take an era of films with me, it'll be from the 80s.
Oh, certainly. Most
You've got
certainly.
Full Metal Jacket. These are just a few. Good Morning Vietnam. You've got Predator.
Oh.
Another link with Shane Black. And you've got Wall Street. I mean, there's so many random films. The Fourth Protocol, Hellraiser, Evil Dead 2.
Oh,
I mean, there's just really good films. I mean, Dirty Dancing. I'm man enough to say I love that film. I bought that on video even when I was younger without even seeing the film, and I still love it. I mean, Mannequin, Beverly Hill Cop 2. It's just some brilliant films. Over the Top. I don't care. Secret of My Success, Michael J. Fox. Amazing film. So, I mean, 87 was a tough era to get a standout film like this.
Oh, certainly. I mean, that's the thing. 80s was just full of amazing films, wasn't it? Just action or whatever, especially action films. It was the huge era with, like Arnie and other such actors like that. But, and then you've got this on top. It's just, it was by far, and I know I'm similar age, it still is the best era for films, hands down.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you look they go on about the buddy cop films, and obviously through the 80s, this is when I didn't even notice, I didn't even know about buddy cop films. I mean, the first, I think, buddy cop that I can remember is Chips, just because John and Punch was so iconic on their motorbikes. You know what I mean? And I still love it now. I used to have the Chips motorbike, and that was like when it was. I think for me personally, that's the first buddy cop that I can ever remember without knowing the term buddy cop,
Yeah. When did that originally come out, Chips? I thought that was, it's 70s, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Chips in the 70s, it carried on to the 80s. I mean, John and Punch, absolute iconic, brilliant. But now it's just a term used all the time. And when you look, a lot of people go back to, and I remember seeing the film, 1986, Running Scared, starring Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines, a really funny film. Billy Crystal's a very dry sense of humor, and they play off real well with each other. A lot of people go back to that being the first film. You've got Nighthawks with Sylvester Stallone. And the modern ones, I suppose, you talk about would be like Bad Boys and things like that. Rush Hour as well.
Rush Hour. I was just about to say Rush Hour. Yeah. That was one that sticks out in my mind.
Absolutely brilliant films. Really, really funny. But yeah, for me, it's always going to go back to Chips because it's just so iconic. It really was. And I suppose after that, you got Miami Vice as well. The original series, not the dog shit 2006 film that they made. But, well, that's my opinion.
That's that's the 80s boys talking, isn't it?
Yeah, but Michael Mann,
new age rubbish. What is it all?
Yeah, I just really didn't like that. But so Mel Gibson, he's had a kind of up and down career, really, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he did a lot of good films. I mean, you mentioned Mad Max, and I watched that again recently, the original, and I don't ever recall seeing it when I was younger. Obviously, it came out on the year I was born. But I watched it, and it's a film that just takes forever to get anywhere.
Yeah.
I think it's iconic for the fact that it's different to anything that had been released before it. But I was sat there going, when's this going to get going? And it isn't almost until the very end when it actually sort of gets going anywhere. But it's still, you know, it spawned a series and many people follow it. But he's done a lot of really good films. You know, it's from Braveheart to other such ones like that, and
Yeah.
Conspiracy Theory and all sorts of good
I think there is a
films.
lot of snobbery with that, though, isn't there? When
Mm,
you get the Mad Max films, I'm the same. I quite a while back I watched the Mad Max films, and I couldn't understand why they were so highly regarded and
yeah,
as a cult film. And they are cult films, but they're not films I'd watch. And it's as if you don't think they're cult films, you don't understand them. It's like One Division, as a for instance, number like 1 and 2. When I did the reviews on YouTube, that I didn't like 1. It bored the shit out of me. It really was boring. I didn't like the way it was set. I knew obviously it would get going. It's not going
yeah,
to be like Endgame, completely different. But because I said I didn't like it, even though I'm a huge Marvel fan, I've got Marvel tattoos, you know. Even
yeah.
though
No,
I said because I didn't like it, I got messages saying I don't understand it, and it's like Jesus, this is my opinion. Doesn't mean it's right. It's
yeah,
just
but
my opinion.
well, that's the thing. Everyone has a different opinion. That's why you have podcasts and stuff like that, and people are interested in people's opinions about films. If we all thought the same thing, life would be pretty boring, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and it's
So
great now. It really is good. It's there's so many that kind of ways this could go, and it's really cleverly written, and it's great. It's got so many people guessing, so many different theories on YouTube. It's fascinating to watch, but because I didn't like the first couple, and if it would have been released number 1, it just wouldn't have gone down well. That's why I released 1 and 2 together. So you
hmm.
can have one where it's like this is so strange, but 2 starts picking the bits up. But yeah, it's really strange if you don't like something and you voice it. There is that snobbery that you must like it because everyone else does.
Yeah,
It's
no,
really strange.
no, I do completely get that, and I am in that band camp of I understand. I mean, I watched obviously Mad Max Fury Road, different. It's Tom Hardy, but to me, a brilliant film. And I thought I'd best go back and watch the originals just to see what they were about. And yeah, I just watched it thinking, I don't get it. I don't get why everyone just jumped on it saying it's such
Yeah,
an amazing film because it really isn't. Towards the end, yes, it gets fun and exciting, and I like the way it's obviously this dystopian place, but no, it wasn't. I don't think it's all it's cracked up to be honest. But there you go.
no. I mean,
But looking at his things he's done previously, you know,
yeah,
films such as The Patriot, you know, that is such a good film. But he seemed to go through that, didn't he? He did
hmm,
things such as almost Britain bashing, if you like, England bashing with The Patriot, and he obviously did Braveheart and stuff like that, didn't he? Where it's always us lot that are going over there and or doing something to someone, and he had to kick our asses. It's
yeah.
just yeah,
Well, look at it. If a UFO lands, it's going to be saved. It will land in America. It will be destroyed in America.
yeah, it's
You
true.
know, Independence Day is a prime example. But yeah, I mean, it's films that he did some really good films. There was times where he peaked, where he was voted the sexiest man in the world,
Mm.
and his career he could kind of pick and choose which films he wanted to do. But he did choose some really weird films to do, and they started to kind of go downhill. I mean, Signs was it was okay, but it started to kind of go downhill. He was like the singing detective, um, Edge of
Yeah,
Darkness, and they're going to get the Gringo, like Machete Kills,
yeah.
Expendables, really weird things that you think you don't. Surely, at your stage in your career, financially at least, you don't have to choose these kind of films.
No, but didn't he? He got in quite a lot of trouble in relation to some of his thoughts in here around religion.
Yeah, he went. Yeah, very religious. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that got him in quite a lot of trouble, sort of Hollywood wise, didn't he? So I think he probably was trying to get anything he could to get himself seen again, because I think that might have been roughly around the era, if I could speak, that they weren't touching him with a barge pole.
yeah, but it's strange because I mean, the film he did, Apocalypto. Have you seen that?
No.
It's kind of set in the Amazon, and it's basically and it's around like the Aztec time as well, where you've got the tribe who haven't been discovered by kind of people outside of the jungle, and it's
Mm.
their kind of journey of a family. Um, inside the jungle, and it's all subtitled, and it's a really, really good film. And he's the producer of that film, and it's just fantastic. So it's weird, the kind of the peaks that he had compared to the lows. They do seem like the opposite ends of the spectrum. But I mean, I don't know how he's kind of thought of in America these days. You don't really hear much about him, do you?
No, not at all. What? Because he direct? They say he directed Passion of the Christ,
That's
which
right.
was
Yeah,
very, very controversial. Obviously, with around religious groups and stuff. I thought it was quite a good film, to be honest.
I've never seen it, to be honest.
But yeah, I mean, it's brutal, sort of around the ending and everything. But yeah, no, it's just something ring the bell. Yeah, Passion of the Christ. I think that's what got him in a lot of hot water. That was 2004, so that's when it started going a bit downhill.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at his opposite number in this, Danny Glover. I love Danny Glover. I think he's a really good actor. I think he's so easy on the screen to watch. You know, he has a certain kind of. He's like the guy who's got a really cracking voice who did The Shawshank.
Oh, Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, he's a kind of a similar real for me personally, just to Morgan Freeman. He's so easygoing and just so easy to watch. And he was kind of more noticed for like theatre and things like that before he made it big on screen. He was obviously in the Oscar-winning, I think it was Oscar-winning Colour Purple, back in '85.
Yeah.
And then he kind of made his name from there. And I think he suits Roger Murtaugh. And Riggs is the same with Mel Gibson. You can't imagine another person playing this kind of character now, because Roger Murtaugh, Danny Glover, they're just one. It's hard to kind of split where one starts and one ends, you know. They're so good.
Oh, definitely. Their relationship in the film comes along very quickly, and it's fantastic. But an interesting fact about Danny Glover's character, when it was originally scripted, there was no ethnicity bound to it.
Okay.
And they were looking to do 2 white actors to do it. And it was actually his acting in The Colour Purple that was noticed by the casting director, Marion Doherty.
Yeah.
She's the one that actually suggested him for the role. And
okay.
So if it wasn't for her noticing him and that, he would never. They were going to go with 2 white cops rather than the 2 that we had. So that's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's amazing how fate works like that, because you saying that the different direction it could have gone in with like another white actor against Mel Gibson, but the Murtaugh family, like Trish, Rhiannon, and Nick, they seem like, and I think it's because I've grown up with them, and I mean it's not a very good kind of example, but like the Cosby Show, I grew up with the family, so you get to know them. And it's similar in The Shield with Vic Mackey's family. I mean, his daughter's actually his daughter, but the whole family through all, I think it's 8 seasons, are the same people. So you do grow up with them, and I think you do get that bond because they're such a likable family, and it's so easy to believe that they are an actual family, you know.
Oh, definitely.
So, and that just works so well, and I think it's just you invest more time, because if the same characters are coming back, you know it must be good. So
Yeah.
it makes it more believable. In my simple mind, it does. But I mean, when you look at Danny Glover, he's got some really, really good films. And I remember this film because my dad got this film out on video, and I didn't know what it was about. And I got quite excited because I thought it was Batman. It's called Bat 21. And it's a war film. And I was really excited for him to put it on. Only to discover that at that time in my life that it was a boring war film. I mean,
Love it.
He's got obviously Predator as well, so he's got that link with Shane Black. But he's done some good films. Again, I think personally his career went a bit strange when he teamed up. I think he teamed up. I'm pretty sure he did with Danny Trejo. In those films, really, really terrible films about kind of being old men, and they get mugged, and then they kind of get revenge on the people who mugged them and stuff like that. really crap films, and he was in quite a few of them. That's it, Badass. He was in Badass 1, Badass 2, really terrible films. But yeah, so his work's kind of really gone up and down his career. But I suppose there's so much competition, and who wants, same with Mel Gibson as well, who wants an old actor? People want action these days. You've got The Rock for action, nothing else.
Well, hence why Mel's obviously done that massive action film with all the old guys that are in it now. The Expendables.
Yeah.
They all end up there, don't they?
Yeah. And when you look at, and when I looked at this, because it's a film I've always loved since I first saw it all those years ago. And again with Predator as well. And I never realised that Shane Black, who played Hawkins in Predator, was the the writer of this.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
And do you know how long it took him to write the script?
Go for it.
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks, and he thought it was crap. And he was paid 250 grand for the script, and then an extra 150 on top when it was produced. So There you go.
His first script he wrote was, I think, Shadow Company about zombies, wasn't it? He just binned it all.
Was it? I didn't really.
Yeah, but he's obviously really talented. But I thought it was fantastic that he was in Predator. I just really, honestly didn't realise that. And when you look at his filmography of what he's done, I mean, directed Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Iron Man 3, The Nice Guys, The Predator. Again, a producer as well, Last Boy Scout, Long Kiss Goodnight. He's done some really cracking action films.
Yeah, big films.
Yeah, and he's just written some brilliant films. The Monster Squad, say Lethal Weapon 2, Lethal Weapon 3 was a screenplay for Last Action Hero. And obviously the Lethal Weapon 4, I mean, less said about as they go up, it's probably the better, really.
I think that's the same with most series, isn't it?
Yeah, but it is really, his back catalogue, like library of films, is so impressive. And you don't hear about him much, do you?
No, he seems to be someone that's just in the background. He writes these things, and then, but like you say, it's almost like he's aloof. He writes these amazing scripts and stuff, but you don't really ever hear of it. That's him. It is quite interesting. He's just in the background.
Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't been like they have for a lot of people. When you get these random, like the films in the MCU, they go for very obscure, unknown kind of directors or writers or producers. That because of his kind of catalogue of action films that he's done, that he hasn't been linked to any of them. Because they seem to link everyone else, don't they?
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, back to this film, if we're actually going to talk about this film.
We're not. Yeah.
I mean, the start of it for any teenage lad when I saw this was pretty fantastic, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
Because you've got Amanda Hunsaker, you've got Jackie Swanson, and the reason why I wanted to highlight her earlier, you learn that later on that it's been Dixie the prostitute. As I say, this is going to be a complete spoiler, so if you haven't watched it, you've not been on planet Earth, go and watch it, come back, listen to this podcast review, because we're going to delve deep into the spoilers.
It's 34 years old. If you haven't watched it yet, blooming it.
Yeah, maybe you should keep that quiet then. But yeah, you learn that Amanda has been drugged by Dixie, the other prostitute who was there, and that she's on the balcony, off her head, with her bosoms swaying in the breeze, and she jumps off the balcony. And what's amazing is she actually did that stunt herself.
Did she?
Yeah, which is incredible. Wow. And what they did was, when you look at the crash map, when she falls into one of those, like you see later on with the jumper off the building. She falls into this crash map, which has been painted with cars on it and a road. So when it's actually filmed of her falling, it looks like she's actually falling onto the road. But fair play to her, she did that stunt herself.
Yeah, I mean, that's ballsy, isn't it? That is high up. There is no way on this earth, I would be jumping off of that building to do that. I don't care how much you paid me.
No, it's absolutely incredible.
No.
Yeah, it really, really is. And yeah, and you learn later on that Amanda Hunsaker also got links to Mike Hunsaker, who, and I always, you get these eras, and back in the 80s and 90s, a lot of the time people were together in Nam, and Nam was like a massive feature, wasn't it? They were a mercenary in Nam, and I think we've lost something now, because obviously in 2021 you just can't, unless the people involved are like 80 years old, you just can't use that reference now. I was in Nam, Black Ops in Nam. It's just gone.
Yeah, well, it has, hasn't it? It's like, well, it was World War II before that, and you know, and now then it was Nam, and I guess the next would probably be Iraq or Afghanistan, wouldn't it?
It's got to be,
the
Iraq,
next
Gulf
reference.
War. Yeah, stuff like that. And you see in this the contrasts of different people. For instance, Murtaugh, I think it's his 50th birthday, and his family come and sing happy birthday.
While he's naked in the bathroom.
And he's naked in the bath. But he's got a good body for it. Man, he's obviously, he plays a 50-year-old, but I think it was 40, wasn't he, at the time? But he does look very, very good. I will never, ever look like he does. You always will, in my eyes.
You smooth talker.
I won't. But he's got the tight family, and he's retiring soon. And it goes from there to seeing Mel Gibson in the morning wake up, as a beer, as a fag, and his life is pretty much rock bottom. And you learn that his wife Vicky died, which plays into the next film. And it's kind of, it's because we know more, because we know what happens in the sex film. It's like a mysterious death, basically. And she's died, and he doesn't want to go on. And I think he plays, because of his eyes, he plays someone on the edge really, really well.
Oh, definitely. He's good at that sort of I'm about to lose it character very well, doesn't he? He's very, very good at it. I have to say, all of the acting in this, though it's an action film, if you like, it is really good. I think every single character is believable, especially the two main characters. But you've alluded to the family already, but obviously later on he gets introduced, doesn't he, to the family? And that scene, when I was making notes and stuff, it was done so well, it almost felt real. I think the acting is very good.
They seem a really close, tight-knit family, the kind of family that you'd want to meet, because they just seem so nice. And it is done so well, and that's why I just love watching this so much, because the characters are so familiar. But they see Hunsaker, she's obviously dead, falling about 40 floors, like most people would be, and that he knows the name. So, and for some reason, they give it to him to investigate. Which I don't know. I've not been in the police, but would that happen or not? I don't know. But you then flick to Mel Gibson, and you see again at the start of this, they're always showing both sides, comparing both officers. They're both working to different styles, and you learn that I think Mel Gibson's like a narco cop with the Christmas trees. I love that scene.
Okay, so let's do it. How much?
How much for how much?
For all of it.
You want it all?
Yep.
He wants it all.
He wants it all. Beautiful.
All right, congratulations.
Maybe a nice 6-footer to put it under, huh? Hey, thanks.
But the shit's gonna cost you, 100.
20, 40, 50, 70, 25.
Hey, what the
Hey, man.
85.
Get it, you dumb shit! 100,000! $100,000!
Sorry, I can't afford that, not on my salary. But look, I'll tell you what, I got a better idea. Here, let me say I take the whole stash off your hands for free, and you assholes can go to jail.
Hey,
what do you say about that?
So good. And that plays, though, doesn't it? It plays to his complete off the wall. You know that he's dangerous. Because it's fantastic, isn't it? And he's there doing the drug deal. And he's taking the piss, and they say, 100. So he gets out his wallet and just starts counting out ones and tens. And you just see them going, what the fuck is this guy doing? Sort of thing. And they, so they stop him and say, no, 100 grand. And it all just kicks off, and he just puts his badge on the desk and goes, "How's about I just take it off you for free?" And it was brilliant.
Yeah, it's done so well, and he kind of gets held hostage, and you learn that he just hasn't got like a stop switch in his mind. He doesn't care if he dies, and I get the impression, I don't know what you thought, that the rest of his team kind of are aware of that, and
Yeah.
they kind of seem to manage him more on a day-to-day basis, don't they?
Yeah. They're like, "Oh, he's off again. That's all right.
Yeah,
We'll sort him out."
nightmare.
It's like, for fuck's sake, man! Why
Yeah.
did we let him do this? Who let that guy do this? What's going on?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
worked with him, but that's followed by, which is scene I always find really touching, and this is kind of memorable in Braveheart as well. Mel Gibson is like a puppy dog. He's so good at giving you those sad eyes, isn't he?
Mm.
And the scene where he puts the gun, and he's obviously rehearsed this a lot of times, as in not kind of acting wise, but to commit suicide. He doesn't want to live. He can't live without his wife. It's really sad, and it's done really well.
Oh, massively. When I went looking through, it was strangely, I suppose at the time, it wasn't really well sort of documented about mental health and suicide and all this sort of stuff, but it was really, really well done. It was quite hard hitting. It just shows you, and obviously, like you say, we've never done that, but working in that career and losing someone and dealing with that stress every day, it must be extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And to portray that in literally, a few minutes worth of filming, I thought they did really, really well with that. It was very well acted, very well directed.
Yeah, and talking about the continuity, the psychologist played by Mary Ellen Trainor is brilliant. And again, what I like, you got the continuity of her playing the same character all the way through. That she obviously takes her job really serious, and she enjoys what she does. But in every single film, they mock her, don't they? And it's just brilliant. It's so good.
I think, what was it? What was the governor? He said, he goes, "Well, if he kills himself, you'll know I was wrong."
And this film, I didn't realise had the first, and they do call it, a mobile phone in it.
What, the box with the phone attached? I know.
The scene where, after the jumper, that when Murtaugh rings her, and he's got that phone, which is like having a suitcase that you're on holiday with. That's apparently the first time a mobile phone was seen in a film.
Really?
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Because
it is incredible.
You can't believe they used the word mobile.
Yeah. Well, he walks around with it. His arm was hanging 3 inches lower than it should be, but it's afterwards. But I mean, going back, that's an iconic scene, isn't it? Because they obviously get put together because he gets kicked off of his unit because of his crazy stunt with the drugs.
Yeah.
And then he gets given to Murtaugh to look after. And then, of course, they get dragged off. They get called up to some bloke jumping off a building.
Yeah.
And obviously, everyone's seen this film, but if you haven't, it's a brilliant bit where Riggs goes up and somehow manages to handcuff himself to this guy that's threatening to kill himself, and end up throwing himself and the guy off the building, which is just brilliant. The way he's going, it was brilliant the way he did it, because he was always, "Oh no, I want to talk, it's fine, let's have a cigarette, blah blah blah," and then all of a sudden he just switches and just his eyes open up and he goes, "Do you want to jump? Let's jump. I'm going to jump," and he literally throws himself off the building.
How'd you leave without me?
Hey, what are you doing?
Oh, no.
What are you doing?
See this key? Bye-bye.
You're crazy!
Now, you can jump if you want to, but you'll be taking me with you, and that makes you a murderer. Okay? Come on, let's go
You
back.
bastard!
Yeah, you'll be killing a cop. Now,
Yeah,
come on,
I've been
son.
killing a psycho nut cop!
Yeah, psycho, but I'm still a cop. You coming in? Come on, I'm going in.
Fuck you! I'm jumping!
Do you really want to jump? Do you want to? Well, then that's fine with me. Come on. Let's do it, asshole. Let's
Wait a
do
minute!
it.
What?
I want to do it.
Wait a
I want to
minute.
do it.
What do you mean?
I thought it was brilliant. The guy afterwards was just screaming, "Help me! Help me!
Yeah.
Get
it's
this
so
guy away
good.
from me!" Oh, it was brilliant.
And I love that because when you see these kind of things, you do think, oh, just bloody jump, just do it. If you don't go on about it, just do it. And the fact that it's the cop who makes him do it, and the geezer shits himself, and he'll probably never do that again. But it's just at that time, it was just such a good idea. I don't think I've actually seen any other film do that.
No. I think that's it now. This took it, and I think if anyone else tried it, they'd just be criticised for ripping off Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, 100%. And it does things like that. It sends the message so well and so clear, because the introduction to as you said, to Murtaugh, to Riggs, when one's in the office and Riggs is there cleaning his gun, or just looking at his own gun for some reason in the office, and then Riggs feels like, or Murtaugh thinks he's kind of seen some perpetrator and tries to take him out, and as he runs towards him, like Riggs just takes him on the floor and points the gun at him. And it's just that first introduction of what he says to him. It's brilliant, and that says everything.
Yeah, with the famous line, isn't it? And I'm too old for this shit, which just rings through the rest of the films, doesn't it? All four. It's his catchphrase.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and you don't need any other build-up because that just does everything for you.
Yeah, definitely.
And you also get the classic line of when they're meeting each other. I love it in films, and I always wonder how they're going to get the name in. Of when Murtaugh says the name of the film about being a lethal weapon.
Yeah.
And it's really, really good because you always think, are they going to get this in?
Fowle also said you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
But the story kind of moves really fast because you're instantly, like the baddies as well, I really enjoyed. And there's two baddies in this. That's all they need. And you get the introduction with Mr. Joshua at the nightclub, where they're trying to do some drugs deal. And as a demonstration of just how serious he is, he puts a cigarette lighter against Mr. Joshua's arm. And even now, I look to see how they do that. And it's just done so well. It's so effective that Gary Busey, what an introduction. No words are said. He just introduces him. He doesn't say a word. Puts a cigarette lighter. He makes the other guy he's trying to do a drugs deal with put the lighter under his arm and just holds it there. And he doesn't say a word. And again, you don't need a lot of build-up. That says everything. Just in that 30 seconds, it says it all. And it's great. And the guy thinks they're absolutely bonkers, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, he's in there, and he's trying to be the big man. And the general, played by Ryan Mitchell's, sort of, giving him what for. And, because he's, you've hired mercenaries. And he's, I trust these men are loyal. And that's when he grabs his arm and gets Joshua, played by Gary Busey, to literally stand there while he holds a lighter to him. And like you say, there's nothing said whatsoever. And I looked closely thinking that can't have been real, sort of thing. So it'd be interesting to see how they did that as a special effect.
It does look really effective, doesn't it? I mean, when you watch this, did you suspect? I mean, it's hard to answer this because it's going back such a long time. That Michael Hunsaker would be so involved in this, as responsible for his daughter's death.
At the beginning, no, I honestly didn't know. I mean, looking at it now, I've seen it. But no, at the time, not at all. Especially because his reaction, doesn't he? Because when they go and see him, his reaction to it is just, he's completely beside himself because obviously his daughter's been murdered, and he's, screaming, "Get the bastards!" In the middle of I think he works in a car deal or whatever it is, a bank or something.
He works in a bank, yeah.
Yeah, and he's literally screaming at Murtaugh to kill them. Now you wouldn't do that normally in a bank, would you, if you were involved in it, if you see what I mean? So
I think it's done really well. It's really subtle, and it's only when later on at the funeral that you kind of get full disclosure. But I've kind of the action scenes are pretty fast and there's not much of a break in between them. And the scene, I mean, when they go to that really nice house, and in real life, I think that's Richard Donner's actual home that they used as a set. And they discovered the two females kind of cutting up drugs. And the idea, and again, it's the chemistry between Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, where he says, can we do at least one job where you don't kill someone, where no one gets hurt? And he promises that no one will get hurt. And to be fair, and this is a question I'll ask you in a second, he saves his life. Mel Gibson saves Danny Glover's life. So he doesn't really do his job properly. He's dicking around. And it's brilliant stunt of this guy falling in the swimming pool on top of the cover. And it's a horrible, drowning must be horrible. But knowing you're wrapped up in this plastic sheet and you can't get out of it, it's still, to this day, watching it, a really impressive stunt and really effective.
Oh, yes, horrible ways to die. But no, it was hilarious in the fact that he goes, can we just, not kill him? Can we actually question this one rather than killing him? And he goes, oh, you do all the talking. You do it. And obviously he pulls the shotgun out on Murtaugh and he shoots him in the leg and goes up to him. And he's like, you read him his rights. And he starts putting his gun away, being all cocky. And he gets to his feet and the guy gets out a pistol. And Mel Gibson blows him away. But yeah, he doesn't kill him straight away. And he drowns in a plastic sheet in the pool, which is horrendous. So they both jump in after him to try and drag him out.
It's really, really good. And again, from there, they go back to like Murtaugh's house, and you get him with the family, and you learn that Mel Gibson doesn't really have anyone.
Yeah.
And it's so nice because I don't know in this country with regards to the police and like partners whether they have them, but it always seems to work so well in like the American films. And again, I don't know whether they have it in America or whether it's something they just use for films, that partners are always partners. But it works so well on the comedy you get when they're sitting on the boat, that you soon realise that Murtaugh has no idea about boats, but he's got a nice boat sitting in his front garden.
He's trying to fix the engine of a boat that doesn't need to be fixed because Riggs just turns it on while he's trying to work on it. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's just so funny. And from that you get a scene that I was looking at where Murtaugh mentions about, because he says about him being crazy and everything like that, and he talks about the sniper shot.
Yeah. Because I found that odd where he just put that in there.
Yeah, it's a weird reference, isn't it?
When I was 19, I did a guy in Laos from 1,000 yards out. A rifle shot in high wind. Maybe 8 or even 10 guys in the world could have made that shot.
But I mean, because I'm a complete nerd, I looked, and the longest sniper shot is just over 3,200 meters. No, it's 3,540 meters. The longest sniper shot by an unnamed person. That is incredible. I love stuff like that. I think it's fascinating. Yeah, when you take the wind into account, the circumference of the Earth, and everything. I mean, that's why I loved Mark Wahlberg's film Shooter. So good. It really is good.
I've not seen that, but that's because I'm not a massive fan of Mark Wahlberg.
You're not, are you?
I probably should give it a go. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a really weird comment. It's just like going out for a meal with your mates and then ending it by telling them that you killed loads of people with a sniper rifle. I'll be like, okay.
Yeah, great meal, guys. By the way, I killed 15 people while I was in the war. Anyway, see you later.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to get your opinion on this next bit, and it always made me think that Murtaugh, obviously it was his birthday, so he's going through a few late presents, and he gets an envelope sent by Michael Hunsaker, and it's got Amanda Hunsaker's yearbook, and it's got a video of her in the shower with other females getting her boobs out and being showered down.
Yeah.
What a weird thing. That doesn't help the case. And he's just sent his mate a video of his daughter with her boobs out, doing some kind of girl on girl action. Was that sent to kind of pull at the heartstrings? Do you think? Why was that sent? He didn't need the yearbook, and he doesn't need the video. It doesn't add anything.
No, I
And I
mean the
just wondered
yearbook.
why he did it.
I think the yearbook was to show that there. I think one of the other names in it wasn't there was one of the victims or something. Because he looked at the yearbook and he looks at two different girls in it, and I think they're the ones that are involved in the prostitution and the drugs.
Well,
So
because
I think it leads it together, doesn't it?
well, because it's got, I think, well, it's Michael and Beverly Hunsaker, his other daughter, who's mentioned, like next to each other.
Oh right, that's what it is, isn't it? Yeah, they're because he mentions his other daughter.
Yeah. So I didn't know whether that was meant. He just did it to pull at the heartstrings. I really don't know why he sent him like that video in the yearbook. It's a really strange thing to do.
It is weird. Here's a video of my daughter's boobs.
Would it have been wrong if he would have rubbed one out?
While I was watching this, all I kept thinking of was it would be hilarious if his missus just walked in.
How could you explain that?
It's part of the case. Fuck off, is it? Put your old boy away. Come to bed. You dirty bastard.
Yeah, why'd your hand down your pants?
Yeah, exactly. So,
Deary me. That had to be
if
mentioned.
you got cases like that, I'd join the police. Let's be fair.
My lord, it's just fantastic. The next scene, I love it, and it still makes me smile when they go on the shooting range.
Oh yes.
And that's when they conveniently fill the whole storyline in case you've missed it, because you've got Dixie, who was at the start when they turned up to look at the body of Amanda Hunsaker, and they established that Dixie was there to plant some bad drugs for Amanda to take, and then that would kill her. And then Dixie tried to leave. She didn't realise that Amanda would throw herself out the window, causing police to come to the scene, and then she'd have to make up some bullshit story. So they then decide they need to speak to Dixie because she's heavily involved. They've got all of that just from chatting. And again, it's very much like the shoot 'em up we did last week, where it's as if like, right, we've really halfway through the film, let's just really fill the plot in, and we can just crack on. And it's kind of really convenient.
I don't know about you, but why would you choose to have that conversation in the loudest place on earth, wearing ear defenders? There's 15 cops in there letting off firearms, and they're shouting at each other about this case. They couldn't have heard a fucking word.
It's one of those things where they just both agreed with each other. They didn't know what they were agreeing on.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. Yeah. Did he realise I just told him I fingered his daughter last night? I don't know.
But yeah, so Murtaugh shoots a hole right in the middle of the face on the shooting range, and he's got an old-fashioned like Smith and Wesson, like I don't know, 38 or something like that.
Yeah.
Just an old-fashioned six-shooter. Where where Riggs obviously got the I don't know, was it a 14 round?
It's a Beretta, isn't it? It's
Beretta.
Yeah.
And Murtaugh chuffed to bits with himself, single shot, middle of the face. And when he does that smiley face, it's so good. It's just so much fun.
But it's just brilliant, isn't it? Because he stands there and he used exactly the same target, and he just puts it right back, and he just stood there whistling or humming away. And Murtaugh's looking at him going, he's got to stop this. So, no, it's still going. It's still going. And then he just lets off, like, what is it, 5 or 6 shots.
Yeah.
And it just comes back humming again. Yeah, it's
brilliant.
It's a smiley face, and he turns to him and he goes, do you sleep with that gun?
And they go and see Dixie, which doesn't go very well, and you know something's gonna. When you look at it in hindsight, like everything's different in hindsight. Mel Gibson's got these glasses on, which are virtually like safety specs, and Murtaugh's glasses look completely different.
Yeah, they do, don't they? I didn't realise that.
And as there's some kids waiting outside, Dixie's house blows up, and it looks like it's both of them in front of it when it does blow up. which I suspect it is because of the glasses they're wearing. Because then in no other scene does he wear those glasses.
No.
And Murtaugh's glasses don't look like they're reading glasses. They look like safety specs. You know what I mean?
That's really weird. I've not noticed that before until you just mentioned it.
Yeah, and he kind of pats him down as if he's on fire when you can clearly see he's not on fire. And then it's quite sweet because the only witness is a young kid, and then they have to question him. And
Yeah.
and it's just brilliant the way the conversation goes.
Oh, it's fantastic, isn't it? They're all just like, no, don't tell him anything. No, because when they first arrived, they just started. It was almost like they were letting everyone know that, because they say, like, "Oh, look, here's the cops," and they haven't even got their badges out or anything like that. Like, oh, right, they know who the police are. They're obviously around this area a lot, nicking people. These kids are like an alarm system for all the criminals in there, which is brilliant.
Yeah, it's so funny.
It's because that kid, isn't he? He's going, "Don't tell him your name, Alfred." Oops.
Yes. It's like Dad's Army.
Oh, yeah.
Your name, Pike.
Don't tell him your name. Don't tell me your name was gonna put you in jail. And you won't see your mom.
No. It's all right. I'm not gonna put you in jail. Come on. What's your name?
No. Don't tell me your name, Alfred.
Alfred.
It's just so good. And then you get another huge disclosure scene at the funeral, where Mel Gibson's waiting outside, and I just presume that it's Amanda's funeral for some reason. I don't know if it's stated or not. Where Michael Hunsaker says that he was in, he did Air America, which conveniently was a film that Mel Gibson and Robert Downey Jr. starred in together.
Oh, there you go.
With the CIA of smuggling cocaine during the war, and they reckoned truthfully that the government were funding the war due to smuggling the cocaine out of kind of Asia and places like that.
Blimey.
So and they restarted up their connections again, like the mercenaries, and that they were using Michael Hunsaker's bank to launder money. And when he kind of got the wobbles about it and wanted to back out, that's when they threatened him, basically poisoned his daughter to carry on. And he was quite happily profiting from shipping heroin into the US. So that instantly changes things. And you don't learn any more because you get Gary Busey come up a really very good scene in a helicopter and just takes him out. And that kind of, you instantly learn just how dangerous that Gary Busey is. And it's really good.
It's a fantastic scene because previous to that, isn't it? The little boy they interviewed said that he had a tattoo that's the same as Riggs' tattoo on his arm.
Yeah.
Because they all served in the same sort of thing, and that's how they got to think it was sort of this Joshua or someone like that. But it was interesting because obviously the guys in the house at the funeral home or whatever, and it was the house saying, you know, how dangerous these people are. However, he kept going by the massive windows. Yeah. And I'm sitting there going, don't go by the windows, mate. You keep talking about how dangerous they are. It just pop you at any minute. And
especially when they leave a big gap by the side of the screen. It's like in the horror films, isn't it? You know someone's going to come behind it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was just leading to it. It was just, but you know, you knew it was coming. But it was brilliant. The fact that he just all of a sudden can't hear this, but a massive helicopter just pops up. You know, Mel's just outside having a fag. He's all right. He's happy. And then all of a sudden, this helicopter pops up, shoots someone through the window, through the back, and then it goes through the milk carton, which I thought was quite fun. So there's milk going all over the floor.
It was eggnog, it was.
Oh, it was eggnog?
For some reason,
yeah, sorry, yeah.
I don't know if that's the drink of choice at funerals, eggnog.
Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. They had some left over for Christmas. But, and then, so yeah, I thought that was brilliant. It's like, surely you must have heard the goddamn, unless in the 80s they had helicopters with silencers on them. And then it just flies off. And I just love that Mel just thinks, yeah, I'm going to take down this helicopter with my Beretta. Oh, yeah. Lets off 2 clips doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, surprising that.
Yeah.
Then that's followed up by when they're out on inquiries. Joshua comes back because they're now told, well, the general's told by Mr. Joshua that possibly Michael Hunsaker told them everything about what's happening. So they shoot Mel Gibson, which obviously pisses him off. But they think they got the advantage that now they believe he's dead, that they can use that as like a tool to kind of get by him. It's pretty flimsy, to be honest.
Yes.
And they up the ante again by going round to Murtaugh's house and kidnapping Rianne, don't they?
Yeah. Rianne gets kidnapped by the bastards because they think they've killed Riggs, so they're after Murtaugh now to know what he knows about the drugs.
Yeah, and the plot, they kind of built this up and was saying like, look, this is going to get really dirty, it's going to get really bloody, we've got to do it my way. And to be honest, it's a really stupid fucking plot that he comes up with to rescue Rianne.
Yeah, well, I didn't get this, right, because obviously Joshua. Oh no, sorry, no, go. I'm getting ahead of myself, mate. Sorry, you go ahead. Sorry.
No, because the idea is he goes down to meet the middle of the salt flats, and Mel Gibson gets out, I don't know, 100 yards before he gets to like the RV point, and he wants his daughter, and he's got a hand grenade on him, but that hand grenade would not kill 15 people. It's a terrible idea.
It's not the best idea, and I was right. It was before because Joshua phones up pretending to be the newspaper, doesn't he, to confirm that Riggs is dead.
Yeah.
And his old partner sort of gives that sly smile and going, yeah, you know, and all this sort of thing. But then only those two go to meet this bunch of mercenaries.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you're right. The plan's terrible. He turns up with a shitty little grenade in the middle of a desert, and then you've got Riggs in the brush, you know, just waiting.
Yeah. It's awful, but again, that comes down to the foreshadow of when he said, "I killed someone in Laos from 1,000 yards away, and there's only 8 people who could make that shot." I mean, it's no good. Why didn't you get SWAT? Why didn't you tell everyone else what was happening?
Yeah.
It's a terrible idea.
I mean, yeah, it was stupid. You'd never get that signed off, would you? Oh yeah, we know where they are. Bunch of mercenaries, loads of drugs. We're just going to handle this, us two. Oh yeah, no problems. Yeah, let's go. It'll be fine. Sure, you don't want any backup? Nah, we've got this. It's fine.
Yeah. Don't need backup. Why would we need backup? It's going to work.
I can shoot someone from 1,000 yards. I don't need any backup. And I got a shitty grenade. Yeah.
But they obviously get captured because they have to get captured.
Yes.
And they're going to interrogate them. And I like the Mel Gibson interrogation where he's brilliant. Chained up. You again see the nutty side of Mel Gibson, don't you? The way he tortures him is very, very good. And the way it's going to be described by Gary Busey is also kind of really sinister, and there is not a lot of fucks given.
Who's the chin?
Endo, meet Mr. Martin Riggs. Endo here has forgotten more about dispensing pain than you and I will ever know.
Terrific.
See, Martin, we have a problem.
What I loved about this is the fact that when he's having electrotherapy, as they call it, that Gary Busey keeps touching him.
Yeah.
And keeps getting shocked himself.
It's really weird.
It's weird. It's like, stop touching him, mate. You keep going, throwing your hands up like it's hurting. So stop doing it.
And that's the same Asian guy who tortures him, who gets a Twinkie in Die Hard, who's in the foyer as well.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 Very sharing of the time of when Mel Gibson basically turns around and goes, "Who's the chin?" And it was like, oh, you couldn't get away with that these days. My God, that's terrible.
And we didn't talk about it as well, but and it's interesting when you talk about Die Hard because Mel Gibson and Bruce Willis were offered each other's roles.
They were. I was going to put that out later. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
No, don't be daft.
Yeah. it's really weird. It's the, as I said earlier, with you can't imagine people playing other characters. It's exactly the same with Tony Stark, Chris Evans, and people like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that would have worked? Because I mean, we know Willis is an action hero as well.
I don't think it would have worked, to be honest. I think he's a brilliant action film actor. I love Die Hards. I think they're brilliant films. But I think, like you alluded to earlier, the way Mel can act the crazy person with his eyes and everything else like that, it really went in with his character. I don't think it would have worked as well with Bruce, because I think he's too much of a hard man.
Yeah.
Isn't he? He's too much, you punch me, I'll punch you 10 times harder. He's that kind of action hero.
Yeah, there doesn't appear to be kind of as many visible vulnerabilities with him, does there?
Yeah.
But yeah, and you get kind of probably for the first time, maybe, I don't know, you see that the jiu-jitsu that Riggs can do when he kills the Asian guy and manages to escape. And that's when it's kind of it feels a bit of a token gesture moment where both of them escape, and you've got the general escapes, and obviously Mr. Joshua does as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it seemed like a bit of an anticlimax, the way Murtaugh does his neck thing when he is going to shoot properly, and you've got the general driving at him, and it takes it's really good, don't get me wrong, it's one shot in the head, and he kills him, which is fantastic on a moving car. I just feel I'd like to have seen a bit more, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was quite a quick sort of, I know he burnt alive, didn't he? The car flipped over and he burnt alive or what have you. But yeah, it did seem like there was, quite anticlimactic in the sense of he was such a big bad guy and he just gets taken out quite easily, doesn't he?
Yeah. And then you get the famous, and it is for me the very first one, and when you see people running down the road or anything like that, I instantly think of the Mel Gibson scene, because when he's got the machine gun, he's running down the road. They know that Gary Busey is going to go after the rest of the family and kill them, so he's got to get there pretty quick, and he runs. I mean, when you look at his run, I mean, that's been overtaken now by Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible films.
That's true. That is true. But he can run. Mel can run. But that man is fast.
Yeah. Oh God,
Over
yeah. He
very
can
long distance as well. He does. Yeah. He's got some proper lungs on him, that boy.
Yeah, he can nearly run as fast as a car, really.
Yeah.
And the end scene when they capture Mr. Joshua at Murtaugh's house.
Yeah.
And then it makes me die. It really does. I mean, if you'd have to kind of write this up afterwards, how you'd write it up, I don't know. They caught the guy who was responsible for multiple murders, shipping in cocaine, heroin, prostitution, and he was cuffed, but we decided to uncuff him so they can have a one-on-one fight, cheered on by all the police.
No.
It's brilliant.
Oh, yeah, it was brilliant because it obviously added to the fact that Mel Gibson's an hard man and he was, an action hero. But it was just hilarious because obviously Murtaugh's just stopping all the rest of the cops going, this is my, I'm in charge, let me do it, and all this sort of stuff. It's like, bollocks, would you? There's no way on earth that you'd be allowed to let two blokes just almost fight to the death.
It's brilliant. It's a really good fight as well. And it's the first time, I think, that in kind of American films that they actually used like martial arts and various styles of martial arts, and that was something that they really wanted to add to Riggs's character, and they did extensive training to do it, and I think it plays out really well. I mean, this is when Gary Busey was in really good shape and played a really good bad guy, and he's plays a great villain. He really does.
Oh, he's very good. Because he's just so deadpan, isn't he? Most of the time, it is like he is just the ultimate soldier. He just follows orders. He will kill people he needs to kill. But he's also got that sort of about him that he goes around kicking people's asses. I think he's very good. He plays it very, very well. Very believable.
Do you prefer the Gary Busey here or the Gary Busey? And a lot of it goes on film, so it might be unfair asking this. In Point Break.
God, blimey. Do you know what? It's been such a long time since I've seen that film.
Because he's so good. In here he's prime. You know, fighting, the fitness. He's got that physique. He's very, very good. And it's the complete opposite. He really, really is. But it's a really, really good character, and it's so similar. The ending is incredibly similar. I'd love to play them together, and if I would have done this on the YouTube video, I would have played them together. I still might at some point.
You might have to.
The ending, compare the ending to this and play them together on a screen of Die Hard and Lethal Weapon. All you got difference is Bruce Willis and Holly McClane. You've got Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. And the cuddling, you've got the guy who comes out Nakatomi Plaza with the gun, and then he gets shot. You've got Busey stands up.
Yeah.
They're both cuddling, and they pull guns out and they shoot him. It is so similar, and you've got to give credit to Lethal Weapon, which was there first. It's exactly the same. It's frightening.
It is. I suppose the only difference is the fact that they both shoot him together.
Yeah, and they
rather
are
than
lovers.
just because they blatantly love each other. But it's but yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's basically a carbon copy. It's hilarious.
It's mental. It really is. And again, that officer who took the gun off. Yep, we've got him. He's alive. We can question him. Actually, he's now dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Ignore my last.
Absolutely brilliant. And when they end it, when he's at his wife's grave, I wonder, and I've not bothered to look this up. I mean, I'm sure there's other reviews and there's other podcasts or YouTube videos, of if they knew that they were going to bring his wife into the storyline, because she obviously is like a plot driver to a certain extent for Lethal Weapon 2.
I don't know.
So, but just wondered. But I mean, for you, do you think this was Mel Gibson's peak? Do you think things didn't get better for Mel Gibson here? And the same for Danny Glover as well.
I mean, Danny Glover wise, yes, because like you said, he went on to do Predator 2. I think it was after this, wasn't it? Which I thought was fairly pants compared to the first Predator anyway, because that was brilliant. I liked a lot of the other stuff that Mel did. Like I said, Patriot, the Patriot and Braveheart and things like that. So I think he sort of went on to do other things which were different but very good.
Yeah.
But I think this is definitely the start of when, people stood up and noticed him.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, this is I think all of the Lethal Weapon films, because I love all of them. I think they're all of a similar kind of ilk, and I think they're all great. And for me, it's the peak. It's what I know Danny Glover for. He can't be in anything else. No one can take his place. The TV series, and normally I ask, could this be split up into a TV series? Sadly, it was, and it's utter dog shit.
But
I don't know. I think, again, it depends with regards to the same thing for Mel Gibson of when you grew up, because he is always going to be Murtaugh. When I see him when he's old now, and I can't talk with regards to hair, but when he had that mullet, which looked so good back then, and he looked so cool, for me, he'll always be Martin Riggs, always, regardless of anything else.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is definitely era based, isn't it? Because most people from the sort of 90s will remember him as Braveheart, but people from the 80s will remember him as Max or Riggs.
Yeah,
because those were his iconic roles.
Yeah, and for you, who won the film? Who was it?
Oh, do you know what? They played it so well together, didn't they?
Yeah.
Both of them were fantastic in it. I think the chemistry between them made the film.
Yeah,
in many ways.
Agree.
I don't think either one were better than the other. I think if those two. That's hence why there was probably 4 of them. They didn't change the actors throughout because they were just so good.
Yeah, definitely. You can't have one. You're right. It won't work. The dynamics, it just won't work. And there was going to be an alternative ending, wasn't there?
Apparently so.
Which was involved police chase, helicopters, the Hollywood sign burning on fire, trucks exploding, and just general mayhem. I am so glad that they didn't actually do that ending and that they went the way they did. Whether they did that because it was direction on a second one, or whether it was budget, or whether it was just because it was a stupid ass idea. But
probably a bit of all 3. But because they toned down the violence in this film. It was the original script was a lot more violent, and apparently they toned it down, which I find quite interesting.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's always weird to look back when you kind of see different ideas in things and what would have happened and why decisions were made, which possibly could have saved a film or kind of given birth to a second film had they not gone down certain routes. But I mean, out of 10, what would you give it? And your best bits and worst bits for this film? And would you recommend it?
I'd definitely recommend it. It's a classic 80s action film. Like you say, it's a cop film, brother cop film. The 2 actors in it, Busey and sorry, not Busey, he was a good bad guy, but Glover and Gibson were just fantastic together. I'd give it an 8 out of 10, no problem, and recommend anyone watch it. Good bits. I think my favourite bit will always be them jumping off the roof together, because I think it was just hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's the first time it's been done, and like we said, it can never be done again because this film owns it. There's
no bad bits, is there? It's hard.
There isn't really any bad bits. I suppose, yes, the only bad bit is probably the way the general dies. I think that could have been done slightly better with the whole head turning thing from Danny Glover. Because I'm not being funny. If a car was driving at you at God knows how many miles an hour, the last thing I'd be doing is worrying about my head movement. But but there again, it's slapstick, isn't it? It's very much like we said about Shoot 'em Up. It's not trying to take itself seriously. Whereas that was awful. This is very good and it's done very well. But it does take the piss out of itself at the same time, and it does from the opening bit. So yeah, that's probably my worst and best bits.
No, I completely agree. I'd score it 7.5, 8 out of 10. I really enjoy this film. It's easy watching. I can watch it again and again and again and still get the same enjoyment. Then I'd say the best bits, I'd say there's so much of it. You'd stop and watch it if you were passing. I always kind of gauge it that if it was on and you were flicking through the channels through adverts and it was on, would you stop and watch it if you were at certain bits? And I would.
Definitely.
And there's so many different bits, you know what's coming next, and I think that's always a sign of a good film.
Definitely.
And I agree, the bad bits, I would have liked Danny Glover, who's absolutely brilliant, to have more of a starring role with regards to how the general died. It was good because it was his thing. It was a great shot, but I think he deserved more because he's just such a great character. He gave so much more, and I'd recommend this all day long. And hopefully we can now go and do the rest of the films, because it'll be interesting to see whether these improved or whether these got worse. But yeah, I just think it's absolutely brilliant. And when you look at the budget for this film, this is estimated, and whether this is true or not, I don't know, but 15 million opening weekend, 6.8 grossed in America, 65 million, and worldwide 120 million. Again, huge profits. Back in those days in '87, that's absolutely massive, and it must have made millions and millions and more. Because it's still such a popular film and spawned. Did you say 4 films?
Yeah, there's four of them, and obviously a TV series that you mentioned.
Yeah, and I have to say, every time I watch this film is the birth of the saxophone. That's another star of the film.
The jazz music in it is brilliant, isn't it? just
it's amazing.
all of a sudden, you're, oh, it's a bit of jazz. It's nice. I can get down with this. And
It's just so good. The saxophone in this, it's just so cheesy and smooth. It's just, it's dangerous.
With the time,
Really,
I
really
think
is.
it's interesting, isn't it? Because, all right, this film was brilliant. We both agree, 8 out of 10 and everything else like that. And obviously go back to listen to our other podcast about Shoot 'em Up. But fairly similar, I would suppose, in the sense of it's running around shooting people and stuff like that, a lot weaker. But it just goes to show you how films in the 80s, how they were done and they were accepted for that kind of flow compared to how they are now.
Yeah. It's strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the change of the times. Whereas me and you could, like you said, if it was on TV or it was in a shop window or something like that, you'd happily just say, I love this bit. I'm going to just stand there and watch it. Or if you're at home, you just carry on watching it, don't you? No matter where it is in the film, you don't have to watch it from the beginning. It just hooks you. You're completely right. An interesting fact about this, though, is apparently Leonard Nimoy was supposed to be the director of it.
Oh, really?
And he turned it down. Yeah.
And I know they were meant to. Well, they weren't meant to. They did offer, because of Richard Donner's involvement in it, Christopher Reeves, and Christopher Reeves will forever be Superman, regardless of what role he plays. And I just think it's perfection, both of them. You just can't think of anyone, honestly, who would have who could have made this any better in any kind of way,
No, definitely. But I agree. It'd be interesting to review the other three to see how they went along the line. But yeah, it'd be interesting if they should have just left it. Like so many franchises do. They take it that one step too far. RoboCop, point in case. 1's fantastic. 2, it was pretty damn good. Number 3, if you never saw it, it wouldn't matter. It's,
and do you think this film's dated at all?
I suppose it has, in the sense that your mobile phone's a brick, or more than a brick. It's half a building. And no, honestly, I wouldn't care if. No, to me, the film itself, it's set back in the 80s, but it's just brilliant. It's just watchable.
I think it's very fortunate that it stays away, as you say, apart from the phone, it stays away from technology. It's just drug dealing. It could be done that it's Gulf War, it's like Afghanistan, poppy fields, cocaine and things like that. But it hasn't dated because it stays away from technology, and it's always another classic film which we've reviewed, Die Hard. That film can't be done again because due to technology, you can't be held hostage unless you've got some kind of blocking device, but you just can't do it. You can't hold people hostage in a building with like social media and things these days. It would just get out of what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame that technology has taken away and made films like Die Hard just not possible, or even like Towering Inferno and all different films like that. But I think this film doesn't date, and it's so lucky. And that's what makes it just such a good film, and that it would be so wrong to remake this film,
Yeah, I really hope they don't do that that criminal thing of remaking a classic that didn't need to be remade. There's no need for Hollywood to touch it.
No, just definitely stay away. Stay away
from it.
Yeah, is there anything else you want to add to this?
No, I think it was a pleasure. It was lovely to watch it again after all those years. You just, like I say, you look at it and you forget how good it was. It was, looking up some facts as well. It was quite interesting, this one. But in the background in the films, or in this film, you will notice in a couple of shots, Free South America and the apartheid.
Oh, Free South Africa.
Yeah, see, Free South Africa and the apartheid.
Yeah.
Now, apparently, the director, or they got death threats in relation to this, and that is what made him go on to do number 2.
What, you got death threats for the Free South Africa fridge stickers?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Even the little boy Alfred was wearing a T-shirt that said it, but you couldn't read it during the film. But yeah, it was apparently he got death threats for it. And that's what caused him to do number 2, or agree to do number 2.
God, so well, we benefited from the narrow-mindedness of people, didn't we? In that
Basically, we have.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, that was, folks, 1987 Lethal Weapon. I hope you enjoyed that. Remember, we've got our email address, thefilmreelcast@gmail.com. If you've got any requests of films you want to do, or if you think some of the things we've spoken about are complete nonsense, we often do, and I think about that myself as well. So we should have done Caliber, but we wanted to do something this week, and off the cuff, we've done Lethal Weapon, and I'm really pleased we have, because I've really enjoyed talking about it again. It's a great opportunity. But we're back next week. We should have James as well. So we'd have the whole gang. We'll have James doing the intro, which I enjoy. I know you do as well, Neil.
Oh, he's been missed.
You never know what is going to come out of that man's mouth. He's a genius. So we'll have him back. We'll have the whole gang, and we will talk about Caliber, available on Netflix in the UK. So if you've got Netflix, Caliber, watch it. It's a really good film. Watch it now, then listen to our podcast. They're coming out every single week. So I'm Stuart. You're Neil. And it's been a pleasure. And we will be back very, very soon.
Goodbye.